we got on. Hello, everyone. Diana Rankin here. Thank you for coming live, those of you that can. And I've been sitting here reading your messages. Sheila says, from Amsterdam, Sheila says, hello, Diana. I hope you're doing well. I am. Thank you. And she says, hello, everyone. Happy Friday, y'all. I love it, y'all. And then Juliet Tanner says, hello, Diana and everyone from around the world. And Sheila says, I see your title, The Call, and I'm curious about what you have to tell us. Well, we're going to get into that pretty quickly here. We are going to talk about the call today. There are actually three questions. One is, what is the call? How do we know when we've been called? And what do we have to do to answer? And Phillip, my spirit guide, as you know, I write out the answer that he gives us and often add a little bit to it because sometimes Phillip can be a little difficult to understand. He's so we have to add a little bit. Anyway, Wendy says, hello, everyone. And Sheila says, hello, Wendy. It's always so exciting to see those who are able to come live because I know you're helping to hold this energy for me. And, I've been doing this for a few years now. And yes, it's gotten easier, but it's not easy for me to just sit here and look at myself on the monitor. It's much easier for me to be standing in front of a group speaking. And then Sheila and Juliet, Sheila is saying hello to everyone. We will also, as you know, get a message from my spirit guide from one of my books, The Master's Book of Answer. And we just open up to any page. Every page is it's like an oracle book. And you can open up, and it always pleases me. I want to say it always surprises me, and yet it doesn't because it's been so many years, that every time we open this book, it corresponds to what we've been saying on the video. So let's get in here and see what Phillip has to say about the call. And the questions again are, what is the call? How do we know when we've been called? And what do we have to do to answer? Well, if you can hear the sound of my voice, you have been called. No question in my mind about that. So let's look at what the call is. Phillip says, the call refers to awakening to your higher self and coming into alignment with your soul's mission. Your spirit self is reminding you of why you came into the third dimension. Not everyone will be aware of the call in this lifetime. This is because not everyone is aware of their higher spirit self. They may learn their soul's call in another lifetime. So maybe they knew it and forgot it, or they're going to get it in the next lifetime. The call will be different for each individual as to how it is to be expressed. That makes sense. We're all individuals, so we're going to express our call differently. By this, we mean that each individual has an individual mission to accomplish. For example, a person may be called to be a healer. There are healers who use words to heal. This could include writers, speakers, psychic readers, therapists, even friends or family, for example. Or a healer may work with the body, which could include energy workers, emergency workers, medical personnel, and so on. So whatever the call is, we're probably living it right now. And I want to stop here and I want to tell you a little bit about something I just read in an old journal that I had not forgotten, but went ahead and wrote it out, and probably will post it on Facebook. Or I have, by the way, joined Substack, so I will be posting there as well. Anyway, I said, I was raised that psychics were bad people. I was raised in a very devout, fundamentalist atmosphere. But I also, in high school, lived in a Jewish neighborhood. So I became very, very interested in multiple religions and in spiritual, in Buddhism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I didn't feel I was a poet, I was a writer, I was a daughter and a granddaughter. And I was a teacher. I became a university instructor. What does that have to do with being a psychic? I fought being a psychic. I did not want to be a psychic. No way. No way. It's a huge responsibility. And so it was also, again, in my mind that I couldn't be that and be the poet and the writer. Well, I was lived in California at the time, and I almost crashed. I was just be driving along and blank out, but I could feel it seconds before, so I could get off the freeway. But more than once, I almost blacked out on freeways, and I went to doctors, and nobody knew what was going on. Or they'd say, "This is going on." That, and finally, I came to the realization of who I am. And when I came to that realization, I embodied it. I accepted it. Now, I still see a lot of responsibility with it. And I trust that that responsibility is never goes away, that I accept the responsibility. But it took me a long time. I was in my well into my 40s when I finally came into my own, when I finally accepted my calling. And when I finally embraced the all of me and what that meant, that I can be the poet and the writer and the psychic reader. And my goal, the big goal, is to use words to help people. And that's what I realized. That's my calling. When I saw myself as a little girl waving a magic wand saying, I want the world to be okay. I want the world to be happier. And I realized and embraced all of me. And when I did that, life got, I won't say easier, but life got, made more sense. And life became, it did become more joyful. So here we go. Let's go back to what Phillip tells us. Every walk of life has the possibility of being a calling, but not everyone in that walk of life is aware they have been called, or even if this is their calling. I just told you my story. So how do you know if and when you've been called? If you are asking the question, how do we know when we've been called? You are aware of the calling in this lifetime. You have already received the calling and now are ready to move into your soul's journey at a deeper level. Remember the dream you had as a child. Remember, mine was to wave a magic wand and make the world right. We must insert here that the calling always is for your greater good and the greater good of all. If your childhood dream was to have great wealth and power, to use this wealth and power to help the world and aid those in need, and if you obtain the wealth and power without harming others, this is your calling. So there are people who are very, very wealthy who, if their wealth is to help others, and along the way they did things to help others, this is their calling, to help others in this way. However, if you harm others while obtaining wealth and power, you most likely are not living your calling. Or if your idea is to just have wealth and power and misuse that once you have it, that's not your calling. Phillip goes on to say, as you may have surmised, the calling has a spirit element in that the soul's mission is one of love and growth to purify the heart. We are separating the calling from passion for a way of life. Certainly there is passion for your life when living your calling. However, there can also be passion for your life, but it may not be your soul's mission for spiritual growth. But it may be to relive corrections from past life experiences. You know when you've been called because you just know. This knowing is quite subtle, but you still know. In the beginning, you may question, but eventually this questioning leaves, and you just know. You are doing what you are meant to do. I want to stop there for a minute before, got a couple more paragraphs here, but I want to stop there because I want to say it doesn't just suddenly light up, and it's knowing. It's much more subtle than that. It's, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Maybe it's to help animals. Maybe it's not your livelihood. Maybe it's to feel illness so you can heal it and help others, or have empathy for others who go through illness. It's different for all of us. And we tend to think it's some big, great, huge thing. And it's usually not. If you look at your current life, you can feel what the call is. Maybe your call is to music. Maybe it is to sing. Maybe it's to be a parent. Maybe it's to be the good child. Again, look at your life and you will figure out what your calling is. Don't try too hard, because you get in your own way. Phillip goes on to say, the calling, and here's how, this is the third part, our third question. How do we answer it? And I think this is the hardest part for all of us. The calling is answered breath by breath, step by step, until every breath and every step is your calling being lived. You simply smile at yourself, for you know you are doing what you come to this third dimension to do. The human life may not always be easy, but beneath the difficulties is the sense of knowing this is what I'm meant to do. And it all begins with that first step you're led to take when you commit to your life, when you commit your life to answer your call. So it is as simple and yet as difficult as saying, I step into my call. I answer my calling. And then listen to your intuition, and you will be taken to that first step. When I look back at my life, I realize that I've been highly intuitive my whole life. And we were allowed to call it woman's intuition, but we were not allowed to call it psychic. And to me, we start with gut instinct, move to intuition, develop that into being psychic, develop that into being the mystic. And I can't call myself a mystic yet, but I'm hoping to move there before I say goodbye to this dimension. Okay, let's see. Hello, Julia. Hello, Diana. Sheila says, I feel like an NPC, non-player character, because I didn't hear the call. Sheila, I think you're being way too hard on yourself. I really do. And it may not have to do with illness. It may have to do with where you live, and maybe helping other people where you live. We may again think that the call is loud, and it's not. It's subtle. And if you look at your life, you're probably already living your call and may not quite know it. But I will tell you, it's always about helping others. And it's in hindsight often that we realize we're living our call. Often in hindsight. Let's get a message, shall we? Okay, I am hearing, which are you hearing, left or right? And you just got a hit on that. If you heard left, we're in sync. That's our message for everybody. If you heard right, pay attention. That's a message you need to hear. This is page 32, and it says, the way of war is not the way. The way of war is not the way of peace. The way of war is not the way of peace. Maybe your calling is just to pray for peace in our world, or to see the world surrounded in light. That's a pretty big calling. If you heard right, life is for living. Life is for living. And maybe your calling is to make others laugh without, so much of comedy puts somebody down. And we can have laughter and fun without harming anyone else. Sheila says, yes, I'm grateful to live my life in the Netherlands. And Sheila, maybe there's somebody who isn't, and you can help them with knowing why they should be grateful. My friends, again, if you heard left, the way of war is not the way of peace. So let's work for peace, not war, within ourselves, as well as within our countries and the world. And if you heard right, life is for living. Start living. Whatever is going on in your life, start living right where you are. And that doesn't mean you're living, I think this is probably true in most countries. I don't know. I apologize for that. I'm being an American here, or a US citizen. But here, our books are romantic, and our TV shows and our movies, they're all this beautiful romance. And that's how people come together. And I thought that for a long time until I finally realized that's not reality. And just in realizing that's not reality, I was able to come more into myself. So look at your life. What are the falsities that society has taught you? And look beneath that and find the truth, because that's who you are, the truth. Thank you, Sheila. Thank you all who came. Sheila says, thank you, Diana. I guarantee you that if you hear the sound of my voice, that you may be unaware, but you are living your calling. And it's not necessarily some big, great thing that you're doing. It may be just smiling at strangers. And Wendy says, my call is to be friendly. There you go. That got it. And Wendy, thank you for telling us that, because I think that helps others really get it. All right, my friends, we are having a beautiful day here, and a fairly warm day. It's warmer outside right now than it is in my house. I should turn the furnace up higher, I guess. But I want to say thank you all for being here. And my friends, again, take a look at your life. I think you're going to be surprised. You are living your calling. It may be to take care of an animal, maybe to take care of a person, maybe to smile at strangers. It may be, as Wendy says, to be friendly. I love you. And that is a calling we all have, to love each other. We hold each other responsible, absolutely, but we love each other. Thank you for receiving this love I send, and thank you for sending me love, and thank you for filling our world with love in whatever way you do that. Until next week.